they were strewn right across Europe as a result of this, because they were already on the way, over 100 flights heading to London Heathrow. Suddenly you're told you're not landing there, and you and I know that there's very little slack in the system, and so all they could do was divert to the nearest friendly airport.
Heathrow boss Thomas Walby has been saying that his airport is now fully operational after a massive fire at an electrical substation knocked power out to the airport and also the 16,000 nearby homes.
There are no disruptions as such to airport operations. Airlines, of course, have, as we just heard, have a tail of passengers who may be stranded, who need repatriation and so on, and airlines are handling that. But the airport operation itself is running as normal.
Well, the airport has drafted in hundreds of additional staff to help clear the flight backlog, but some disruptions are expected to continue today and perhaps well into next week. Well, joining us now with the very latest travel update is Simon Calder, travel correspondent for The Independent. Simon, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, yes, and if your happy song is up, up and away, well, it's not been a very happy 36 hours for you since we had that extraordinary decision by Heathrow Airport to close down the entire operation for the whole of Friday, busiest day of the week, 1,300 and something flights cancelled, over 200,000 passengers left out of position. They did get some flights away later in the evening, including flying down to Rio, if that's your happy song. But I'm afraid, while Heathrow is saying today it is fully operational, what they actually mean by that is, well, if you've got your planes and your pilots and your passengers, yeah, we're ready to help you depart and arrive. But look, I've just been watching how British Airways and Virgin Atlantic are scrabbling around trying to get their planes back. So Virgin's just brought one back from Shannon in the west of Ireland. BA has got one in Zurich, one in Frankfurt. They were strewn right across Europe as a result of this, because they were already on the way, over 100 flights heading to London Heathrow. Suddenly you're told you're not landing there, and you and I know that there's very little slack in the system, and so all they could do was divert to the nearest friendly airport.
Simon, how do you squeeze those 200,000 passengers, roughly, who didn't fly on Friday into the next couple of days? And are we going to see issues for people spilling well into next week?
Really good question. OK, so anybody who has got a booking for today automatically gets priority ahead of all the people who were left behind. They really just have to go to the end of the queue. Now, I very much hope every single flight going into Heathrow and out of Heathrow has every single seat filled. Normally, the so-called load factor, percentage of flights occupied, seats occupied, is 80%. So you've got kind of 1 out of 5 seats empty. Those should all be filled. And yeah, looking at the numbers, it's going to take 4 or 5 days to clear. Except that we've seen this before. When you've got a huge amount of disruption, people find a way. Many people going away for the weekend would have just said, we're not going to bother. So you haven't got to think about bringing them back. And overall, I imagine that most people will be where they need to be by the end of the weekend. But we are going to have a few stragglers into Monday and Tuesday, maybe even later in the week. Some people actually will say, if their airline said, actually, can you come back on Friday from Singapore? If you haven't got anything on, then you might think, yeah, great, I'm going to sit in a nice hotel being given 3 meals a day by my airline. Why not? But generally, most people, of course, just want to get where they need to be.
And Simon, for people who were massively inconvenienced on Friday, and perhaps it was a specific event, a timely event that they couldn't get to, so they no longer can complete that trip, do they get any sort of compensation?
No, they definitely don't get cash compensation, except if you've got a travel insurance policy, a bit like mine. I think I get 25 quid for every 8 hours that I'm delayed. But airline compensation only kicks in if it's the airline's fault, at which point they have to start giving you hundreds of pounds. But the airlines are absolutely furious. Besides the immense emotional cost of this whole miserable business, they are at least, I calculate, £100 million out of pocket. And yeah, the airline closes, it's the airlines who pick up the bill.
Simon Calder, always good to speak to you, even if it's in such unfortunate circumstances. Good to see you. Thanks for giving us your time. Simon Calder there, travel correspondent for The Independent.